DreAllDay.com.
Dre Baldwin with today's daily motivation. The topic today is about conditioning for the long race. What exactly is the long race? The long race is the long run of your entire the situation that you're in, whether it be your life, whether it be your career, if you're in business, your career, if you're an athlete, the length of whatever project that you're working on, whatever it happens to be, you need to be looking long term, not just short term. Most human beings don't see things past their noses, as the saying goes. That means you see a nose, right? You can look at your nose from just with your eyes, you can look at your nose. Most people don't look any further than that. And your nose is maybe, if you got a really big nose, it might be an inch and a half off of your face. Most people don't look any further than that when it comes to the long-term ramifications of their actions or preparing for the future. They only think about what they can see directly in front of them and what's on their plate right now, not thinking about what's going to be on your plate tomorrow, next week, next year, next month. And I'm suggesting that you do the opposite of that and start thinking about the future, thinking about where you're headed, and thinking about how your actions and decisions today, or your inactions and indecisions today, will lead to certain circumstances you're going to have to deal with tomorrow and a whole bunch of tomorrows moving forward. So the conditioning piece of this is getting yourself prepared for that long game, not just the short game. Many people in life are only conditioned to sprint. Everybody knows what a sprint is, right? It's like the 100-meter dash at the Olympics, and the race is over in 10 seconds. So the women's race is the record is what, like 10 or 11 seconds, and the men's record is under 10 seconds. That's how most people operate their lives. Everything is just, they only know how to sprint. So they sprint. And the thing is, there's nothing wrong with sprinting in itself. The concept of sprinting in and of itself is actually a good idea. It means moving fast and moving with some urgency, which is something a lot of people lack. The sprinting is a good idea. The problem is most of you only sprint once every 4 years, like when they have the Olympics, or every other year when they have the big events. All right, you can't just sprint once every 4 years and then wonder why you're not getting the outcomes you want. You need to condition yourself more like a marathoner and be running marathons like every month. You need to be running that long race, and you got to condition yourself to run at a pretty damn fast pace for a long time so you can get the outcomes that you want. And how do you do this? How do you even get started with this concept? First of all, you got to decide or think about or find out, if you don't know, many of you don't know, find out what is the long game of what I'm in right now. What's the long game of this thing right here? There's a metaphor I talked about on my podcast that many people focus on the wedding, but they forget about the marriage. All right, everybody knows what a wedding is, right? It's a big festive event. Well, traditionally, at least in Western society, it's a big festive event, and people spend thousands of dollars on this wedding, and it's a big event, and everybody has beautiful dresses. Everybody comes, and there's all these presents, and all this money gets spent on the wedding. And then sometimes those marriages don't last 3 years after all that money that got spent on the wedding. It costs more to have gone through it than you actually get out of it. And that's what happens with a lot of you, is that you're focused on the wedding, the big event that announces what you're doing, but you don't focus on the marriage, which is the long game play of what you actually signed up to do. And that's what I'm trying to get you all into the mindset of, keeping in mind that if you look around at what most people do, they focus on the sprint, they focus on the wedding, but they don't focus on the marathon or the marriage. That's the long game. And the long game is the one game that you really need to be focused on winning, not just the short game. And one of my favorite books, The 33 Strategies of War, Robert Greene talks about grand strategy. And in the concept of grand strategy, it's about, sometimes you might lose a battle, but in the big picture, you always win the war. Why? Because you're keeping your eye on the big picture. You're focused on, how do I win in the big picture, not just how do I win this small little long run inconsequential battle here. It's like you winning some little back and forth right now that doesn't really mean anything. And then while you're winning that, you're not even focused on how you're actually losing in the big picture of the big picture of, what do I want to call this? Let's just say your career or your life or your business or a relationship. Don't win the small ones at the expense of losing the big ones. That's what you would need to think about. And then you need to consider, what kind of conditioning, what kind of preparation and work and knowledge do you need to have in place so that you can play this long game in a way that you will actually end up winning. Not just sprinting and winning part of it, but not winning the whole thing. That's the game. I'll give you one last metaphor here. Remember the bike race, the Tour de France? I mean, it still exists, but it doesn't get talked about that much. I don't hear about it that much since Lance Armstrong, who was probably the most popular rider since he's been out of the game, I don't really hear about it that much. But in Tour de France, the way I understand it is that it has stages. Like there are several stages to the race. I don't know how many there are, but there are many. And there are people who they get commemorated for winning a certain stage of the race. So let's just say, for example, there were 20 stages in the race. Person who wins stage one they get like a trophy or like a shirt, or they get recognized. They won stage one. Stage two, there's a winner. Stage three, there's a winner. Stage four, there's a winner. Every stage, there's a winner of the race. But then the overall winner of the race is the person who has the best time amongst all the stages put together. So it's like one big long race. A lot of people only focus on winning stage 6 or stage 8 or stage 12 or stage 2, but they don't prepare themselves to win the whole race. What I'm suggesting to you is don't worry about winning one of the individual stages. Focus on winning the whole race. That's the game that matters the most. So with that said, I send out a daily motivation text message. It's a separate message from this video that I send out every single day. You want to get that for free to your phone. Text me at my number, 305-384-6894. And Work on Your Game University. That's where I do all my coaching. That's where I do all my high-level training, all my high-level courses. That is all at workonyourgameuniversity.com. Links to both of those down below in the description to this vid. Last thing, make sure you do all the YouTube stuff. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, like the video, share the video, and comment. Let me know the best insight you got from today's daily motivation. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow. Work on your game.